Hello, I'm Paul Dowding, co-founder and head of design for Alpha Core, and demonstrating our differentiating layer 1 network accounting ledger called TapestryX and its unique capabilities. Unique capabilities in the sense that we can record full accounting, and more importantly, we can record future dated payables and receivables or obligations. In this video, we're going to focus on the first transaction, which is accruing and paying bond interest on the US Treasury. In our network, we have the airlock node as the depository, which escrows the assets for tokens, and then we have a representative custodian that represents multiple accounts, one of which is Will as an asset manager, and we have node B as a clearing broker, and there's a broker in terms of Paul. Although multiple interest payments will be paid when interest is paid, we're focusing on the single payment to Paul as a broker. So if we look at the data that you see on the GUI in the screen, we then show that Paul records a receivable in the contra transaction from the airlock depository and accrued in his account. So you see the transactions from the airlock to node B, and it's a $4,500 interest payment of US dollars. Now when we click on the entry, the icon for the journal entries, you'll see the actual credit account, which is the asset lot ID versus a ledger. And then we also have effectively a statement receivable incoming against an offset account. So we're doing full nostro-vostro accounting that can be reconciled in real time. But effectively we're showing what is an obligation, not a transfer, a payable receivable, an obligation to receive. Now on the flip side, in the contra transaction, the airlock depository is simultaneously recording an obligation of the payable to from node airlock to node B. So they have a receivable and a payable. So these accounting entries mimic what is done today between a depository, a member, a clearing broker for US Treasury interest accruals and payments. However, on TapestryX, all parties are perfectly synchronized so that the transactions are agreed before they're processed the transactions. Now if we go and look at the system itself, and I'll flip to the system, here we actually see TapestryX live, and we're showing our dashboard of transactions that are being processed. And you can see beyond the network dashboard, we've got transactions completed and the asset lot and other exceptions. But here we're focused on the transactions. You can see where the transaction data we receive from. So we're showing again from logged in as the business analyst for Paul's account. They're seeing the transaction from node airlock to node B, and it's showing the obligation to receive the $4,500. And again, to see the journals that you saw, you could just click on them and you can see the journals, and you can see that it's an incoming receivable. This is a credit, so we've got all the data there that you need to see. Now looking at how do we focus on the transaction, we've got effectively a pending interest payable receivable settlement. And effectively what we're saying is that we're going to now pay the interest and reverse the obligations. So you're recognizing that the obligation is being met. And what we're just showing you here is a snapshot of the screens where we can manually input, but effectively these screens represent the API payloads that you need to send from your system to actually settle an interest payable reversal and settlement. So we've got the fields here representing who the counterparty node is, the transactions, the amount, and the priority in terms of asset lots where it's going to be transacted. Now we're looking at the transaction that's actually being processed. So the depository settles and reverses the interest payable and transfers the amount to node B for the account of Paul. So we actually see node airlock to node B. We've got a reversal of the payable receivable and a transfer of the $4,500. And clearing broker node B reverses Paul's receivable and credits the interest of the funds to their account. So if we go and look at the system on this one, we can go and look at the transactions that were actually processed to do it. From Paul's perspective, we actually see, again, the transaction, the reversal, and then the transfer. And we can see that it was a reversal of the US dollars and 4,500 and a process of the transaction. So you can actually look at the accounting journal where you're now debiting that receivable against the ledger and showing the correct accounting in terms of nostro vostro. And then we're also showing at the same time the accounting of a credit to a new asset lot, and this is the $4,500 that are now credited to Paul's account on node B. So again, we're showing you that we're actually generating accounting journals, and we've shown a future date obligation, even though it's intraday, and then that obligation is being met. So, looking at the recap of accruing and paying interest in US Treasury bond, Paul's clearing broker, Node B, recorded an interest receivable based on the US Treasury interest payment schedule. Simultaneously, in the same transaction, the airlock deposit recorded interest payable against holdings in each node, including the one to Paul and his clearing broker. There was also a single interest receivable from the Fed, but that we did not show you. As far as the paid interest, when the airlock received the interest payment on the escrowed US Treasury, it allocated and paid the interest to each node holding a tokenized US Treasury. Each node simultaneously credited their client's accounts, node B for Paul, for all interest accruals, and the interest accrual was reversed at the same time. So privacy here is assured. A node, clearing broker or custodian, knows its transacting party's holdings within its node and only sees the anonymous holdings passing between the other assets recorded in other nodes. And the transacting parties can only see their own holdings and cannot see or know the holdings of other transacting parties. So just in the same way, the operations sees many of the transactions and cannot share or disclose confidentiality, and the transaction parties have permission to access only to see their data. So that's shown you the unique way that TapestryX can record an obligation against interest, and then how that obligation can be reversed when the interest is paid. No other blockchain or distributed ledger can record the accounting journals or future dated payable receivables as obligations on their ledgers. Thank you for listening.